Okay, you can stop.
This is recording, Mizan, so I can put that also in my website, in Central Islamic Studies website.
Shall we start now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'd like to welcome you all to a special session on Eco Madrasa and training of green imams on green theology. We're looking at an Indonesian case study. It's quite a special, a unique topic, to be honest, which many people have not been aware of. If anything, the awareness on this subject is very limited. And so we have a distinguished guest with us today, Professor Fakhruddin Mangunjaya from the Universitas Nasional of Indonesia in Jakarta. He's a specialist in the area of conservation, ecology, and ecological ethics, particularly from the viewpoint of Islam. He's the Vice Director of Conservation of Environment and Natural Resources Division at the Majlis Al Ulama in Indonesia, as well as having contributed to a number of books, both within the sphere of Islam and ecology. He's also widely recognized in the wider environmental community as a specialist in the field of environmental activism and how we can marry the two, Islam as well as the environment, into one sort of unified, coherent body, which can then be used to sort of allow Islam and Muslims to be at the forefront of environmental awareness and activism. So there is one particular book that Professor Fakhruddin has written in 2005 called Nature Conservation Islam, and that drew on from classical Islamic literature as well as other texts like the Malay Islamic book Sabil al-Muhtadin. So what it does is it contextualizes the goals of conservation, such as addressing deforestation, decreasing waste, and many other things. And then by working with the ulama, both at the pesantren, the primary school and secondary school level, as well as scholars at the university level, it's bringing that awareness at all levels such that there's a unified methodology that can be implemented. And Indonesia, alhamdulillah, has got some very good examples of this being implemented in various spheres. And now the question is, how can we learn from those experiences and replicate some of this in other parts of the world? So without further ado, I'd like to ask Professor Fakhruddin to introduce the subject, tell us a bit about the case study in Indonesia, and then after that we'll open up to questions and answers, and we'll sort of delve into particular areas in a bit more detail. Professor Fakhruddin.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Brother Mustafa, for the moderating the session. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Brothers and sisters, whether that in Indonesia or in UK, to be honest, this kind of study putting me on the ground up to the intention in helping the Ummah of how they can contribute, and particularly from the Islamic teaching, the Islamic perspective on how they can move on the conservation and nature conservation, as well environmental conservation as well, as we are now in the middle of challenge of the turbulence of the climate issues, not only climate issues, climate realities that happen already in our days. I just got a picture from my friend today, because recently I just writing about finishing a book on Islam and climate change. And I realized in my survey, that's right, in Jakarta, in the top of Jakarta, it's called a district called Karawang. There's a mosque just now in the brink of the beach, that nearly, getting out, fallen to the beach because the abrasion have been there. That beach have been, that mosque have been very far before, but since last decade, because of the risings of the abrasion and the rising of the sea level, also disturbing, and the wave, putting that sand, dilating the sand, and then now the moss only can be used only during the water are shallow, but during the tide water, you cannot use that moss for spraying. So that's so touching. In Indonesia, some beach, coastal land is already degraded by the climate um, issues and climate change. Back to my, I would like to show some slide. Mijan, can you show me the slide, the share screen, or should I show this share screen here? Mijan, okay. Thank you, Mijan. Can you go from the first? Yes, second. Yes, click next, next. Yeah, this is the issue of why we should involve the first about the madrasa. And in Indonesia, we have what we call Islamic boarding school. In the Muslim world, we call the madrasa. In Indonesia, they have Islamic boarding school, which is the two type of madrasa in Indonesia. One is, it's like regular madrasa where you can coming daily, and the other is Islamic, the boarding school. This boarding school is quite huge in number. We have about 27,000 around all over the countries, with the total student 4 million. Can be imagined, can be like one state of Qatar maybe, or UIA for this school. And we have, this pesantren historically is very old pesantren. They established during the colonial, and even though there's some established from the colonial era and before the colonial era, and they are very old. Some of them are established in 18th centuries, 17th centuries even, and they're the basics of the cadre of Islamic leadership in Indonesia, particularly for the ulama. They are coming from this pesantren, and some of them I also study abroad, study in Makkah, study in Saudi Arabia, and studied in Azhar. But particularly when they coming to Indonesia, the culture, with Indonesian cultures, and they adapt with the Indonesian situation, where they have to help the education. Sometimes many pesantren, many madrasah here is free, fully free. Not only fully free for the orphan, but they are the poor people. For example, I was engaged with the pesantren in Banten. Later on, I saw you the pictures. They are fully free, and the parent are paying the school with barter. They bring food, they bring like agricultural results, They bring paddies to the pesantren. They're not paying anything. So the barter. Next, Mizan. Uh, next slide, please. Yeah, I would just like to tell the story on this typical from 2000 pesantren. Many of them have been thinking about the eco pesantren, how they become more ecologically friendly from the building establishment, and they are also aware about the infrastructure. This pesantren in Darut Tauhid in Bandung, they use bamboo. As you know, bamboo is from you can plant bamboo and you can use that a sustainable way because it is not cutting trees. And they use that building, and they use that also the masjid in Pondok Pesantren Darut Tauhid is close to Jakarta. They also using a good design architecture with some light for tropical design architecture where you can have the light 20 at like 12 hours, without bulb um, for the masjid. Next. Next, please. Yeah, this is typical of pesantren. This is also in Bandung, which is they have like 40-hectare land agriculture. Another typical of pesantren. They have about 300 students. The working with this pesantren, besides they go running the school, they are engaging the communities the surrounding of the mountain by planting agribusiness based on the agricultural and organics agribusiness. So they involve about 100 1,000 individuals, involving the parent of the student, the surrounding of that communities. This is in Ciwidey in Bandung. This is interesting. They established in since 1970s, and up to now they supplying of this, um, um, of this fruit and vegetables, and for the communities inside Bandung going to the town. And this is a good income for the pesantren, for the running for the pesantren. It's been starting in 1980s. Next is a kind of we call agricultural pesantren. We have some typical like this as well. This is Pondok Pesantren Anukaya in Madura. Madura is in East Java. They aware of the climate issues, and with the help of the government, local government, they established this pesantren populated by like 9,000 students from the local region, and they are using solar panel starting using solar panel. However, this is an old pesantren in Madura, and historically they have also good history as one pesantren champion. They winning an award, environmental award from the government of Indonesia. This is Anukaya Pesantren in Madura. Very interesting. Many theses, many dissertation are coming from this pesantren. Study of the life of that pesantren. Um, also very interesting to study about their movement on the environment. Next, there's still many putting slide and pictures, so you can imagine This is in Depok. A pesantren in Depok are using this biogas, and they put this um, cow on, uh, to get their manure for the biogas. And some of them not only here but also in East Java already, many of them. And next, this one in West Java, in Depok, um, they can manage this with like 300 students for their kitchen to cook. And this one, by the help also, I think, by the help of the government in Pasuruan, in East Java as well, in Wonorejo, with 3,000 students, they're using like 50 toilets for biogas. This is human, human pieces, human toilet, and using biogas for the kitchen. So they can use this is for biogas as eco madrasah or eco pesantren. Next, is there any sample? More sample? Yes, this one is sample of pesantren that they're using their land because they have like 54-hectare lands at the surrounding of the pesantren. They starting to plant the trees, like million trees, and also asking the communities at the surrounding. This is the Kiai, the leader of the pesantren. During his, preaching, because this leader of the pesantren is not only teaching at the school, but they are teaching at the community. At the preaching, he always bringing a calculator, calculator by campaigning how we can plant trees, and by plant how many hectares, and by that he calculated he can imagine millions, of dollar can be get in very easy cash if we plant trees, because there are not so many trees now, resources. So by this movement, this kiai, this leader of the Sadece, become leaders in this field, and they they are becoming like a locomotive, um, like a train, attracting so many people coming to the pesantren and learning about the movement, and also taking that, the seedling back to home, and he give that seedling free. And interestingly, he say, I've been there too, one time. This is in Nusa Tenggara Barat. Nusa Tenggara Barat is in eastern part of Indonesia. And he say, before the starting of learning to the class, he asking the student for, putting the seedling together. So beside the, learning, he is also practically, together with the student, planting these trees. So million of uh, trees now been planted, and they get, benefit from this planting. And before, the pesantren was very dry with water. Now the water was coming, and the others community are following. So this is a creates carbon offset. If we can put that carbon offset initiative, we can, because this one is very important. This is the school that I've been involved with the pesantren in Sukabumi in Jawa Barat, pesantren Darul Ulum. We setting the Harim zone, because just right at the river bank of that this pesantren, there is a river bank, and so uh, they they then conserving this, small forest for their for their practicum. So this will be a natural laboratorium for them, and my student come to teach the about the insect, about biodiversity, and of the trees, biodiversity of many birds are coming out that area as well. So they keeping this up to now as we call harim zone protected areas. This is this terminology is used by the classical Islam terminology in protecting the areas for public use, but they are not being established for only natural areas here. So by protecting this forest, this pesantren easily get water, clean water, clean water. Just like an artist is coming from the ground, and the clean water is very easily. This is the initiative we going to endorse in the next time. We putting this platform in the website, but this is not complete yet. Inshallah, it will be a running program on Eco Pesantren. We put this platform so the pesantren can, and also the clerics can learning and how to greening their pesantren. So this is will be a shared learning web-based pesantren called Eco Pesantren. So we'll be maintaining the future. Talking about the Islamic ethics, of course, the basic of the empowerment theology, Islamic ethic on empowerment is basically learning from Quran, the Sunnah, and the fiqh that been established, and Ijma ulama, and also the fatwa. So practically using this, this is what I'm teaching also for some cleric, discuss with them and facilitating them. And Indonesia, we have some fatwas on regarding environment. So by this, I'm as part of the Islamic Council of Ulama in Environmental Division. We initiating some requests for the fatwas regarding how to to advise, to advise the Muslim regarding the environment for their practicalities. The fatwa is not news from in Indonesia. It's starting in 1983 during Suharto era for the population health and development. At that day, the family planning was um, very resistant. When we're talking about the planning, the restricting the children, and by working together with the Majlis Ulama, the government got this fatwa regarding population, and so by that the Muslim, the Islamic scholar, the ulama, putting this fatwa for is allowable, permissible to do a family planning. So they was very successful. So that's why Indonesia is become a sample for the Muslim world for the success in family planning at that time. Learning from that, so we still working with the ulama, searching for the advice, because environment is the contemporary challenge for the Muslim. So if they asking about the water ablution, about the mining, about this wildlife trade, and everything been answered by the Majlis Ulama Indonesia. Also, the fatwa on law of burning and land and forest. This is very crucial because we understand that burning of the forest and peatland actually is almost like 80% of Indonesian emission for the global warming. So by protecting this, prohibiting the burning, we can make a significant uh, uh, avoiding emission for the climate change. Next, so as the result of that, this fatwa we we yes, next we boost the fatwa. This is about the fatwa regarding wildlife trafficking. Next, we can click again, Mijan. Yeah, and also the Indonesian Islamic against forest burning. Next, and right after that fatwa issued in wildlife trafficking in Indonesia, following also by Malaysia. Malaysia Mufti also released a similar, quite similar fatwa on protecting the animal. So we use this for conservation, and by this fatwa, we disseminate that. We have the Islamic Council of Ulama to disseminate that to the grassroots, because as you know, they are in the rural area. They coming, we should coming to the pesantren in the rural area, also to the masjid or to the community, to the villages, and we working together with the grassroots level. Next. Next, please. Next slide. Yes, this is one news in BBC. I can give you the link after that, or you just browse it in BBC regarding our training and Muslim cleric. This is all the results of the training. We made a module. We translated the Islam, the Quran, creation and conservation of Fazlun Khalid. He's been here many times for for his principle on thoughts on Islam and ecology, and we have produced khutbah as well. This is published by the MUI, where also I involved in making of the process of making of that. We have khutbah Jumat on wildlife protection. We have khutbah Jumat on the peatland restoration, working together with the ulama, working with the grassroots cleric, and so on. So by using this, we train and we give that this kind of tool to the cleric. Next, next. So yeah, this is just telling you the cleric and the grassroots. This is in Riau. We train about 244 clerics in the peatland area together with the peatland institution agency and together with the Majelis Ulama Indonesia and Universitas Nasional Center for Islamic Studies. Next, I think the same. Next, please. Also the same a year before. The same. This is for the in Limbang Baling. Limbang Baling. We have special in wildlife protection for the balance of the ecosystem fatwa. We are training also this cleric, not only men but also women. Next, this is only this as a picture. I think. Next, please. Yeah, this is also the working together with the government for the pesantren communities uh, on the protection of the wildlife, because these pesantren are close to the natural areas as well protected areas, so we need to engage them because they, instead of from the pesantren they don't understand about the nature, so we teach them about the nature, share the Islamic ethic on nature conservation with the Islamic perspective. Next. This is the total of the cleric that I conduct, like 500 or 400 around all over Indonesia, from the eastern part in Raja Ampat in Papua, also in Kalimantan, also in Aceh. So this is a statement from the ustads who was trained. He said that this training was effective and I believe will increase the understanding of cleric regarding environment. They were enthusiastic to campaign environmental protection. So after that, we usually, you give interview the participant, and they make testimony like this. So they're very happy with the new knowledge of environment that they get. Next, please. Okay, this is also in Riau, in Limbang Baling, especially. This is in remote area. This is in the protected area we call Limbang Baling. These clerics are from that, related village at the vicinity of the protected area, and they are strongly being there, supported by the local NGOs as well the local national NGOs as WWF, working together with the cleric now. So they are daily they are daily there, and giving the food bag, giving the preaching, also interact with the people with the capacity they can preach about the nature and environment. Next. Next, please. This one in Ujung Kulon. Ujung Kulon has the last Javan rhino. So this community is very important, aware about the importance of this, the creation of God, because this the only rhino left is about 68 individual in Ujung Kulon. This is the last rhino, Javan rhino. No rhino like this in other habitat in other world. Even you cannot find that in the zoo, only in here. So by involving this cleric together, they are aware about the creation of God, and they are willing to preach about how important to protect this the rhino, the last rhino of Java. So we are helping the world on protecting the species, and together now the cleric together with national park and the preaching, they coming from masjid to masjid during Ramadan. They make an increase awareness for the protection of the rhino, together also with the government, the local government, as well the NGOs. Next. We are about the last. Okay. Thank you. I think it's time for discussion. If you have any question, please asking. If I can answer. Sorry with my broken English. If I can answer directly, if you can email me, I can give an information to follow up. Maybe I can answer as best as I can. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Fakhruddin, for a very inspiring presentation on some of the huge strides that have been made in Indonesia. I mean, I was aware of eco-pesantrens existing, but I never knew that they'd been become so widespread across the country from Aceh all the way to Papua, and clearly this is something that we can take inspiration from in other parts of the world. I was reading one of your accounts of how, when you brought this subject up about Islam and the environment back in '96, the initial reaction from people was, "Why are you trying to connect Islam with the environment? You know, what is the link?" People couldn't see it, but now, 25 years on almost, it seems like there is a lot more awareness at the madrasa level as well as further up. How did you actually make that happen? I mean, what were the steps that you took to try to increase the awareness and get all people involved, or at least the main actors involved, whether it's the ulama or the people who runs Islamic schools? What did you actually have to do?
Well, I'm persistent people, you know. Well, I'm persistent. I believe this is one of the mission that we have to carry out, because I have personal experience during. I've been told that in so many audience. I have a personal experience during my kids. I playing in the riverbank and I follow, there's an eggs or I pond. You know what kind of eggs? The egg was coming from turtle. So I asked my father, because my father is cleric. I'm asking father, can I eat this, turtle egg? He said, if that is moderate, you're not allowed by the religion. I said, and oh, so I understand because I'm learning, religious teaching from him. And at the other side, when I was in the high school, I learned that Muslim are not consuming the primate, not consuming the primate, or also the animal that they have two, what do they have, two kind of habitat. They live in the water, or they live in the terrestrial. So they are not allowed to consume that. That is only you can find in pig. By that, you can find the animals still exist now in the riparians of Kalimantan, and you can find it is clear, for the Muslim are not consuming they are not allowed to consuming the the animal that have fang like tigers and that have sharp teeth. It's clear in the hadith, but border primate you cannot find any in hadith, but only in the ulama fiqh. That's why I'm using that ulama fiqh on Sheikh Muhammad Arsad Al-Banjari, Sabil al-Muhtadin. I quote that in my book on as that as an impact of that. Not allowed to consume the animal, including the bat, that can spreading the corona right now. So it's also not allowed by the Muslim. So if the people of conservation can learn from the beginning of that, by it is not by law, it's by religions, by faith. That's why we can see the orangutan up to now, because they are not hunting. They are not hunting them. So that's why I bring this kind of ethics, teaching, and trying to explore what is Islam actually teaching us about the environment. By that, uh, you know, uh, not many following, not many following, but I like to write. So by writing also, at the beginning, maybe 1990s or beginning of that, there's not so many Islamic school or not so many universities even. Just recently, Islamic University, they are beginning to search, Islam and environment, and some dissertation um, been deepened on Islam and environment. So many of them, and I just this year helping the university in Banten. They are trying to changing their curriculum with the Islamic eco-theology in the Faculty of Adab and Philosophy. So they're now trying to change that curriculum, by putting the Islam and ecology on their mainstreaming of their curriculum. It is Alhamdulillah, um, one by one and step by step. From that beginning, there will be increasing awareness of that.
Alhamdulillah, no, it's very, very, very inspiring. We've opened the floor for questions and answers, so feel free to send in your questions by text or by indicating that you'd like to speak, and we'll put you on air, inshallah. We've got a question from a person by the name of Gina from Bandung in Indonesia. She says, how can I get more information about Eco Pesantren in Bandung? Is there a course that I can join whilst at college? So this is an older student, and they're wondering, is there some sort of ecology and Islam type course that they can take part in Bandung? I imagine they can get in touch with you directly, but do you have anything to say on that, Dr. Fakhruddin?
Yeah, terima kasih. We are trying to have a kind of short courses or online course, but we are still and would like to establish that. They will be going on in Eco Pesantren website. Just wait. And we've been created some of the module as well. So we're going to share that for the wide public, inshallah. But we still in the processing of that. We're going to share. But at the meantime, we only putting the course for the short training, like 2 or 3 days, directly to the pesantren or to the clerics on the spot, like we did in Ujung Kulon with 30, 40 clerics in with the ulama in Riau as well, in disseminating the cleric understanding to conservation and protection of the wildlife. Yeah, we will open this inshallah in the future, but in the meantime it's still not available. We providing the module already. Inshallah, we will give you an information. Keep in touch, inshallah.
Thank you, brother. We have a question from Mufti Sajjad from Deoband. I'll put you online, Mufti Sajjad. It's a question most probably related to sort of collaboration between Islamic institutions.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So I'm very happy to listen this discourse, and in the context of Indian subcontinent, I would like to seek your help that how we can do such a fantastic activities that you have promoted and you have discussed about it in your lecture in India. Do you have any courses originated or conducted in India so that we can seek information and we can implement on our students learning Islamic theology in our madaris?
Thank you, Mufti Sajjad. Thank you for your interest. Unfortunately, I still in the Indonesian region, but we're working together with IFIS actually, Islamic Foundation for Ecology and Environmental Sciences, and we using also a kind of similar module with updating to the situations of our local, regional action. Like adding it with contact.
But the fact is that we don't have much information about science and technology and ecology. We are just graduates from Madaris, and you are well aware about the courses that we are following. So we don't have very vast perspective or vast background of understanding these things. But if somebody is coming and training the students, definitely they will be interested in pursuing such education.
Inshallah. Yeah, one time maybe we can program that.
Definitely, you are most welcome. Yeah. You are most welcome in India. And hearty congratulations to you and heartfelt greeting to you.
Inshallah.
Thank you.
Inshallah. Yeah. Inshallah. Inshallah. Thank you, brother.
we have another question which is regarding, it's on the same topic of, do you know about any collaboration between Indonesian ulama and the ulama in other countries, for example, South India, South Asian countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, as well as the Middle East? Because clearly there are Islamic institutions, whether it's Al-Azhar, whether it's Medina University, whether it's Darul Uloom Deoband, and there's a lot of knowledge that is gained during the 7 years or more that the students learn. But is there like a course on fiqh al-bi'a, the fiqh of the environment or environmental awareness? I mean, clearly this is an important subject, but to what extent are these universities taking that on board, and can we have a higher level sort of collaboration between the universities so that this can become a serious part of the curriculum?
Thank you. This is very interesting. As far as I understand, they are collaboration, but mostly many dialogues not mentioned about the environment yet. I can say that this is quite very primarily understanding between our ulama, because what just last year I was asked by ISESCO in Rabat to make a document as a consultant, to make a document of how to the document entitled how to activate religious and cultural issues in environment and sustainable development in the Muslim world. So this kind something that we have to escalate, we have to initiate. This is something new from the Muslim world as well. Not many people involving. I was acquainted by many ulama. They said this fiqhul bi'ah is in the peripheral. We can take, yeah, they are not in the mainstreaming. They are talking about something else, but not for bi'ah, for the environment. So that's why an activist like me and academia as well, I have, facilitated a dialogue, something with also the scholars, and bridging that scholar together. We have a dialogue. I'm pulling all, authoritative scholar like the MUI to study environment as well. So, but instead of, I'm studying from them, they pulling me to the institution. So I'm now become the one a part of the ulama, Islamic Council of Ulama, as vice director on the environment. So we're working with this on the not only madrasa, we have also another masjid. All the masjid are now become an eco masjid. We have eco masjid movement, which now continuing. We have dialogues online with have 2,000 of member of masjid right now in voluntary and all over Indonesia. This is another part. I'm taking lead on eco pesantren. The other part, Hayu Prabowo, the leaders of the environmental division in the Majlis Ulama, take lead on the eco masjid. So we interlink together, working together with them, training the ulama together. So let's see. We've been launched that eco masjid in 2016. We have also the prototype of the eco masjid, and still running now. We have learning by doing as well, but we are step by step by doing that.
Okay, excellent. I mean, one suggestion would be, given that you've got this wealth of knowledge and experience on the subject, you could act as a visiting lecturer in some of these Islamic universities. So if there was some sort of agreement where not only yourself but others in the field, they could spend some time as a lecturer at the university for a few weeks, going through this subject in more detail. That way, it wouldn't be just an afterthought. It wouldn't be a peripheral thing. Rather, it would become an integral part of the curriculum. So this is something that can be explored, inshallah.
Yeah, inshallah. Yeah, I've been last year. I've been visiting fellow at IKIM. IKIM is Institute Islamic Understanding of Malaysia. I've been, putting myself like week 2 weeks in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur, and giving lecture in University of Malaya, and University Kebangsaan Malaysia in the same subject like what you asked. So I'm open to any universities, and if the invitation for fellowship on something, and we can have also team uh, to get that more wider movement in the Muslim world. I believe this will be interesting to motivate the academic to not only theoretically but also action.
Yeah,
This is the time for action now.
inshallah. We have a question from Brother Saif Khan. If you'd like to open your mic and start speaking. Brother Saif, whilst you're getting ready, there's a question asking even the eggs of turtles, are they haram? If you could clarify that, because maybe the person didn't understand what the reason for it being haram was or makruh. Could you explain?
The turtle was not. I was not clarified with my father. He say you cannot eat that if that affect yours. It is moderate for you. So he does at that time. He didn't explain to me about it is haram or not. But um, it is the turtle egg for the marine turtle. They allowed to consume. But this one is the turtle in the river. Uh, was not really. It is very seldom to consume. It's very rare to find at that time. I never consumed that, and yeah. Of course, the turtle itself was haram according to the fiqh. The Sabil Muhtadin was prohibited, that not allowed to consume.
Because in Malaysia, for example, many of the Muslims eat turtle eggs. So
Yes, turtle egg allowed, still allowed. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
There's
a
another
marine
question
turtle.
about the challenges that you face from land grabbers and poachers. So when you were implementing this 7 hectare sort of project where you were sort of trying to preserve that particular environment, did you have any opposition from people who are trying to grab the land or poachers? What is your most difficult, challenging memory of trying to maintain the project? What were the main obstacles that you faced, and
Oh,
how did you deal with
this
them?
this is been a land of the pesantren actually. It's not really large. It's owned by the pesantren. They are no grab at all. So these are on the intention of the boarding school to protect that for their maintain ecosystem, for the student to learn as well, to to leave that as a sample of Islamic teaching how to maintenance the river bank actually, and also for the student to study. So this is natural area. Actually, natural area lab. They are committed not to establish anything. They can establish for the building, but by protecting that, so many people coming to that pesantren to see, which is attracting many example from others pesantren to follow that kind of typology of pesantren with the ecology, with maintaining their water, etc. Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose the best way to actually communicate these projects is to show it in practice. So when people see the benefits visually, they can actually
Yes, it
understand.
is.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Absolutely.
is. By that also I should tell that there's an initiative by the youth in Aceh. They are generating some wakaf for buying the land for forest. Now, like 10 hectare or something, they are generating now. Putting that wakaf money for forest, only for forest, pure for forest. They don't have program yet, but I've been visited that area. I'm planting trees because what are the problem if you're planting trees? You plant trees, but if it is wakaf, no one will grab, because that, they believe that wakaf is very sacred, sacred land, or sacred legacy that you cannot disrupt. That is in Aceh. When I was visited that area, when I was back, there's a tiger track, coming to that area, coming to that wakaf. They likely saying hello to us.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah. Very
Excellent.
nice.
So just linked to that, there's a question about how effective were these haram zones, this haram sharif concept that's been implemented. Did you see any improvement using the Islamic conservation principles? It sounds like there has been improvement just by the fact that certain animals are returning to these zones that previously
Yeah,
weren't.
we just only, putting this as discourses of how Islam is also respect the land and protect with that kind of terminology. The principle is quite similar. We can see that it is very difficult, in a secular state like Indonesia to put, but to make people understand that Islam is protecting the same thing. So it's just like adopting the idea of what Islam, it's just only labeling, right? So we can understand, like Hima, for example. Hima is also not certainly during the era of the Prophet. It's coming far before the Prophet, but Prophet have been bring it to the Sahaba, and because this is positive for them, positive for the cavalry, for the protection, because the oasa there we can where the sheep can drink, the camel and the horse can be there on that area, so it should be protected. So that's why Hima is still there up to now. And now we are following the another terminology, national park, protected areas, whatever, which is the same principle. But Islamic principle actually, because it's legacy of the Prophet Muhammad, and saying haja hima wa haja hima lillahi wa rasuli. So that's it. This is hima, this is protected, this is only for God and the Prophet. So it's protected by the state of Medina. So that's why we bringing that kind of principle to make people that Islam is aware about protecting the land and everything in principle.
Okay, excellent. There's another question from Ika saying, do the students who graduate from the Eco Madrasas work as environmental officers or park managers, or what kind of careers do they pursue after they graduate, typically?
I found, because the madrasa is only up to high school, and they pursued another to to university, Islamic university or secular university, the same thing. But I found that one student later he's become an activist like me, and he's working with the international institution. So that was, I think, I cannot find one by one, but there's an effective one to to inspire the student when we are engaged from the beginning in the high school.
Exactly. So even if they don't necessarily stay in the environmental field for work,
Of course,
the awareness is there, and they have that kind of understanding, which they can then pass on to their families, to their friends, to the community.
Of course, yes.
Excellent.
It is very important to have them to engage with us.
Yeah. If there are any more direct questions, feel free to ask. We're open to them at the moment. Another question's come from regarding how do you approach the Pesantren leaders when you want to get them to issue a fatwa or to get them to understand the importance of issuing a fatwa that is related to environmental issues? How do you approach them? I know you said persistence is one thing, but is there a particular methodology that you implement? This is asked by an Indonesian person, so I imagine that maybe they're interested in talking to their.
Pesantren is networking, you know. So you cannot go enter because they are elders.
Yeah.
We have to be culturally understand. And one of my way to approach them, I am coming personally, you know, to engage the leaders. There's always open, right, to for a guest, and you know, just you know, if we want to like discuss, to respect them. But now I've been well known with the lead some leaders of the pesantren. So I just say, do you know him? Do you know him? Then I ask him to call, and he will easily introduce me to another pesantren, so I can go easily to, you know, because their interconnectedness, because they are alumni from another pesantren, coming from big pesantren, and another is networking. So that's why, in principle, if we're working with pesantren, we have to work with the what we call the mother of the pesantren.
Yeah.
Mother pesantren can be an old, you know, respected pesantren. So you come to that mother pesantren, and the rest will be follow. The
Inshallah.
rest will be follow because they are alumni, you know, following the leading pesantren.
Okay, brilliant. There's a question from Sister Humaira about the curriculum that one should follow in sort of gaining knowledge about the fiqh of the environment. So she's asking, is it advisable to first start with more general sciences and then build your way up? Or is there any particular approach that you would recommend? Are there any resources available, like books? I know you mentioned there's some books that have been published, some written material. Do you have any specific recommendations for someone who's starting as a beginner? So maybe someone has an Islamic school in the UK, for example, they want to introduce these concepts of Islamic conservation. How would they start? What approach would you recommend, and what material is available?
Using the Badrun Khalid Islam creation, Quran creation and conservation. This is much easy with visualize. Do I have that book here? I don't have it here. Islam, we call Islam creation and conservation. It's available in PDF in IFE's website, Islamic Foundation for Ecology and Environmental Science. Another reference you can use, that textbook in Islam and Ecology by Harvard. I've been translated that some are relevant because of very interesting to see, you know, they are written by Osman Abdurrahman Lawalin on basic discipline of environmental ethics on environment, and many reference are already, you know, published. But in practical, actually, you know, you can use that Badrun Khalid written Islam creation and conservation. Very very simple, but you need someone to explain about, because they are fair of discourse and understanding beside that. So if you can contact Badrun Khalid with their team in UK, maybe you can you know, ask him to present something, because I'm learning from him as well.
Yeah, I mean, if any of the participants would like further information, they can get in touch with us afterwards, and we can put them in contact.
Sure.
Relevant people, both within the UK.
Yeah, just email me. I will share. There's some of our material is still in Bahasa Indonesia, but if some are public are free, and so I can share the link to you. To you interesting, you can print it by yourself. It is free. It is PDF.
Okay. There's a question from Mufti Sajjad about the Malay Islamic book Sabilul Muhtadin. Could you explain what this book is about? I mean, what are the main sort of themes that are covered by this book? It looks like Dr. Fakhruddin's gone to his bookshelf to get the book.
This is the book. This is regular fiqh book. Sabil al-Muhtadin, but written in Malay. Written in, this is like an Urdu. This is in Bahasa, but written in Malay. This yellow is called yellow book. This is like regular fiqh, but this is 17th century fiqh, but still exists, you know, to be learned by the Islamic school up to now, like in Banjarmasin and, you know, many scholars. Also in, I understand, in Terengganu, in Malaysia, also in Patani, in Thailand, up to the southern Thailand. Also in Brunei, Darussalam. So this is like a big beginning with Tahara, about Salat, about Zakat, Hajj. At the end of this, they tell you about Al-At'imah, about Al-Bab, about food, what you allowed to eat, what is not. I found here about like 80 species of animal that, yeah, what is allowed and what is not to consume. This is a very practical book, just like any other fiqh, but it was written in 17th centuries by the ulama.
Is there an English translation of this book? Do you know?
I don't know. That's a good question. It is transliteration in Bahasa. It's written in Latin now, but the student still learning this in Malay script.
A Jawi script.
Malay script.
Yeah.
Jawi script. No.
Okay. Right. There's one other question, because we are going to be rounding up shortly, but just a few more questions, and then we'll talk a bit about the Center for Islamic Studies that you're involved in. So one question is about, is there much Waqf land since colonialism? So since the Dutch left Indonesia, how much land is actually available in terms of hectares? I mean, is it significant? I mean, Indonesia is a huge country. I mean, it's like, you know, the distance from London to Moscow multiplied by 2 is the length of Indonesia from one end to another. So the area we're talking about is absolutely vast. How much of that land is actually Waqf?
That's a good question. They have been Waqf. Some Waqf owned by, I have the number, but I've forgotten. They Waqf for the hospital, for the pesantren, for the masjid, and many Waqf still. Yeah. That's why almost of the pesantren established with Waqf. And that's why, interestingly, the Waqf not only established by the building, but only land, you know, only land. And when that become a Waqf, the pesantren can use that for agricultural, for farming, anything that can be productive for them to use. We have, I understand one Waqf in West Java is like 1,200 for the school, for the pesantren. So they maintain 300 for school, 300 hectares. The rest like 900 hectares for agricultural and everything else. So it's like a demonstration area. Very nice.
So maybe you can tell us a bit about the Center for Islamic Studies where you're working and the research that's currently being carried out. I mean, could you just tell us a bit about the latest developments in this field because people would like to know what the sort of the cutting edge research is, and it can be not only an inspiration, but it could be something that others could get involved in. I mean, there's one person who's actually asked if they could do research, or would you take on students from other countries to be involved in research at your center?
Yeah, interesting question. Center for Islamic Studies is only one center from the many in Universitas Nasional. We are a small center within the university, but we are independent in terms of seeking the network as well as grant from many countries. That's why we can working together with the many colleges. If they are possible to bring someone to do a research with the availability of the grant, we are pleased to do so. So that's why this you can visit the website. At the meantime, we have 3 projects on awareness of fatwas in Limbang Baling and also in West Java, in Banten particularly. So we recruit some students for research in monitoring and evaluation of our works, but mostly for the internal Universitas Nasional student. We can have that more bigger later, inshallah, Mustafa.
Inshallah. Right, we have a question from Sister Marta-Lena. Yeah, the mic will be open for you, inshallah. So if you'd like to ask your question.
Ibu Marta-Lena, open your mic.
Okay, whilst she's getting ready, there was some questions about, well, this is more like a philosophical point. It seems like a lot of Islamic universities and institutions have departments, centers talking about finance and other issues, but there's proportionally, when it comes to environmental issues, it's almost next to nothing. So how can we redress the balance by getting more people or more awareness of environmental issues within the curriculum of these universities? Maybe you can take that question after the sisters asked her question. I think she seems to be online now. Sister Marta-Lena? Or perhaps you can continue, Ustaz Fakhruddin, regarding this sort of imbalance between emphasis on finance as opposed to environmental issues. And clearly there's a monetary benefit to be gained, and that is easy to motivate people. But how do we motivate people on the basis of the environment being something that is going to be not only financially benefit, but it'll benefit us in terms of survival when things start changing and becoming more difficult?
Okay, can you repeat it again, Mustafa? The question. Sorry, I lost it.
Oh no, it was regarding the emphasis on Islamic finance and other types of subjects, modern subjects, Islamic institutions throughout the world, but comparatively little when it comes to environmental issues. I know there's obviously a need to redress that balance, but what would you say is the best way to try and increase that awareness, given that this is something that is critical, but people don't see it? And also, people often think that the environment isn't something that makes money, but ultimately there's money to be preserved if the environment is preserved, because this is something that's not obvious. How do we make that clearer to people? How do we approach sort of senior individuals at these universities and institutions of learning?
Yeah, we in Indonesia Indonesia, green sukuk, it has released like $1 billion already. Green sukuk been released by the state, by the endorsement of the Muslim scholars as well, and that sukuk being backed by the government for the sustainable and for the renewable energies, for the activities through Islamic finance. So by investing with green sukuk, I think that you can browse about green sukuk. They said that the first in the world on Islamic finance helping the environment. So that is in the state models, and in the civil society models, we collected the zakat and infaq and sadaqah. We have also like a dompet duapa here. By that we collect the money from the ummah, and I learned that during that Ramadan, and we asked the presentation from the dompet duapa. They're helping the poor to maintain, protect the bees from the protected areas, and from supporting there with that the zakat fund, and after that community now can be not become accepting a zakat, but they are giving the zakat back. So this is quite positive to revive the economic of the ummah from the zakat, isfaq, zakat, and sadaqah. So that's what we do also in using the zakat infaq sadaqah for the sanitation and the hygiene. That's why the Majlis Ulama Indonesia allowed the zakat not for the asnaf, for the 7 asnaf, for the 8 asnaf, but it's also can be for the establishing the toilet, because there's so many rural people, they dumping the in the river. So that's why we have difficulties to by using the zakat money, we're helping the poor, to be more healthy and more sustainable.
Okay. Excellent. We'll be rounding up now. If there are no final comments or questions, I'd like to thank Dr. Fakhruddin Mangunjaya for his very inspiring presentation and follow-up sort of remarks on Islam, the environment, and some of the efforts that have been implemented in Indonesia. It really is a case study that we can work from and we can look at as an example. I mean, often we need sort of real-life examples to actually go forward and do something. Often people say this is all very theoretical and we don't have anything to work from. Well, here's an example, not just one example, but we have examples in Bandung, in Lombok, in other parts of Indonesia where this concept is working and will continue working, inshallah. So if you'd like further information, the contact details of Dr. Fakhruddin have been given in the text area, so you're welcome to contact him. And also any resources that you require, if you contact us or Dr. Fakhruddin, we can give you the names of the books that you could use for curricula. And once again, those representatives of universities, whether it's Al-Azhar, Deoband, or Medina or another universities, if they'd like to learn about this important area and incorporate it into the curriculum, then Professor Fakhruddin would be more than happy to provide his expertise and to communicate with the relevant individuals at the universities. So please do get in touch. It's very important to start that communication now. Any final remarks, Dr. Fakhruddin?
Yeah, thank you for the time, your time to watching this presentation. We hope this is not stopping by here, but practically, if you want to contact me, please do so. And if anything you question me, or keep going. I'malu fasayarallahu amalakum wal mu'minun. Yeah. Jadi we have to continue persistently continue what we're working on the empowerment. Inshallah, it will be legacy for the future generation. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khairan. And on that note, I'd like to thank all our participants, and hopefully we'll see you again on the next session. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.